Do you think money plays too big of a part in campaigning? A lot of money's been dumped into campaigns here in Ohio. This election already, we've seen a lot of money dumped in.
Well, if you look back at our last presidential election, money, we thought that money was going to do everything. The other side thought that money was going to do everything, and it didn't. It didn't. President Trump came in with an idea that was going to work best for Ohio, and best for the United States, and the United States voted him in.
Do you think there's anything to the idea that when Trump ran against women, he won? When he ran against a man, he lost?
No.
No. So Joe Biden was just the better candidate, or?
No, he definitely was not the better candidate. God puts people in certain places at certain times. And President Trump was supposed to be our president at this particular time, just like I believe 100% that God put me in this particular place at this particular time to be Ohio's governor in 2026.
What is the most difficult part about campaigning?
My most difficult part has been dealing with the RNC.
Why is that?
It's been, I'm just going to be honest with you, it's been horrible. It's been absolutely horrible. They have a candidate that they want in office, and they will stop at absolutely nothing to make sure that happens. It doesn't matter if it's cussing me out, if it's calling the police on me, if it's telling people not to interview me, not to donate to me. I mean, it's been a horrible experience with them.
What candidate do they want?
I don't know, but it isn't me.
It isn't you. So it's one of the other ones.
Yep, I'm the outsider, and I am a true outsider. I mean, the RNC has. It's been a horrible experience.
So why do you think they have a favorite? Why don't they just let the Republicans in the state in the primary decide?
Well, that's a great question. I would love for you to interview them and find out. I don't know why they just don't sit down with me and say, "Hey, what are your views? What do you have to offer? This is what we're doing for all the Republican candidates." But that's not how they're handling things.
So they're helping.
It's embarrassing how they're handling things.
They're helping other candidates out.
They're doing, yes. They definitely are. They're singling me out to leave out of different events. They've even went so far as to call Lincoln Day dinners and find out if I'm going to be there.
The Republican parties do it, not the candidates.
The RNC, yes.
So what makes you a Republican?
Well, my values line up perfectly with the Republican Party. I am pro-life. I'm a very strong conservative. My husband and I own Ohio Hunting Lodge, and we're very much into our Second Amendment. I mean, you list off everything in the Republican Party, and my views align very well with that. So why the RNC would choose to not, or choose to single me out, that's a good question. I would love for you to figure that out and let me know.
Right. Well, especially if they're running this party, it'd be interesting to know why they would single out somebody who lines up with their values.
Yes, that is very, very interesting. It's
and you have no idea. Have you ever talked to them?
No, I haven't.
Have you tried to talk to them?
Oh yes, I have.
What happens?
Well, I started calling them a year before I actually decided to run for governor, to just try to get an appointment with them. They would not schedule an appointment with me. Then I decided after the election, because I was very involved in the presidential election, after the election, my husband and I decided to actually just go to the office and say, "Hey, I'm here. Can we schedule an appointment?" It was horrible. He started dropping F-bombs. My husband recorded it. It's online.
Now, who did this? For people who didn't see the video.
I'm not sure. I'll have to look up his name, but it's in the video. But yeah, just cussing me out. Said he didn't effing have to help me, and ended up calling the police to have me removed. And I'm like, why are you acting like this? You know, what is the reason? I'm a Republican candidate that is running for governor. And like you said, I mean, you brought up a good point. I will be the first female governor. I will be the first governor of color in Ohio. I will be the first black female governor in the United States of America. Why would our RNC decide to alienate me?
How do you win without their help?
Well, the thing is, they are not the end all. The Ohio voters are the ones that are in control of this.
You know, it's very interesting. When Mike DeWine was running in the Republican primary, I think back in 2018, he was running against Mary Taylor, who was John Kasich's lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. And she said very similar things. We can go back and pull the interview. That the Republican Party was supporting Mike DeWine. It was the Old Boys Network. They didn't want her, but she was going to overcome it. We haven't heard from Mary Taylor in quite a while, and Mike DeWine's the governor for 8 years. So this has been said before. I mean, even at one point she went to the extreme to say she would not endorse Mike DeWine if he got the nomination because she felt she was being dealt with so unfairly by the Republican Party. So why does the Republican Party have a long lineage of doing this?
Wow.
And she didn't end up getting the nomination even close.
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you fear that? Because, you know, I mean, it didn't help her, and she was the sitting lieutenant governor at the time.
I don't fear it. Because, like I said, God put me in this particular place at this particular time. And there's going to be a first. And I believe that I'm going to be that first.
If it doesn't happen, what will you say to yourself?
If it doesn't happen?
If it doesn't happen.
I'm not even going to entertain those thoughts.
Okay. So, at this point, you obviously do not have good feelings toward the RNC.
The RNC doesn't have good feelings towards me.
Okay. Well, it doesn't sound like you like them very much. Now, do you like them?
Oh, well, I love my party.
Okay.
You know, that's the thing. And I'm sure with Mary Taylor, that's what's so heartbreaking, because we love our party. I love my party. I want to be part of the party. I want to help move our party forward. You know, can you imagine what would happen if the RNC embraced the first ever, not the first in one category, not the first in two categories, not the first in three categories, but the first ever? Do you imagine how that could affect our party?
What do you say?
They are so focused on whatever they're focused on. I don't know, because I've never actually got to speak to them, but they're so focused on something that keeps them from looking at the broader picture. And that's the problem.
So in the end, how do you overcome it?
I run.
You run.
I fight like hell. I fight like hell to be the next governor in 2026, because I know this is what Ohio needs. I don't give up. And let me tell you something. I don't want to talk about my opponents, but I guarantee they will not outwork me. I guarantee they will not outwork me.
Well, it should be an interesting race. If people want to get more information, how do they do it?
They go to my website. It's www.fightlikehill.com. I have all the social media. We have a great group of advisors. Military, our senior advisor is a veteran, Larry, and we just have so many people that are on board that are helping make this a reality.
And what would you say to people who say you don't have the experience?
That's very interesting when people say that to me, because we elected a president who didn't have experience. We elected him a second time, So, what do you mean I don't have experience?
In politics, that you have not. You've been on school board,
Mm-hmm.
but have you ever held another political office?
No.
Right. I think that's the experience. A lot of people work their way up. They run on the local level, and then they maybe run for a state office. Dave Yost, I know you don't want to talk about him, but he's been Attorney General. And Mike DeWine certainly he had been Attorney General.
But I'm not running against DeWine. I'm running against who?
Ramaswamy, Yost.
And he has no...
No, he has no experience either.
Exactly.
But Yost does.
But Yost is in what place?
I don't know in the polls.
I'm in
It depends on
second
which
place.
polls you look at.
I'm in second place. Vivek Ramaswamy's in first place. So
By how many points?
I'm leading Yost by 5 points?
Now, what poll is that?
That was with the Columbus Dispatch poll.
Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think people see that I'm an agent of change. Like I said, the RNC worked so hard to make sure I had no media coverage. Within 5 hours of having that media coverage, I shot from 4th place to 2nd.
What media coverage do you think sprung you the most?
All of it. The very first one to actually, open up her doors to me was Colleen Marshall.
Oh yeah, she's been on a lot. We love Colleen.
Yeah, I mean, she no matter what everybody was telling her, she opened up her studio to me and sat down and had a conversation with me, and I just love her. I think she's wonderful.
Yeah. Now, what question did she ask you that you felt was the most substantive?
I can't even remember. I've had so many interviews now, but just the fact that she was the first. When everybody else was turning me down, she was like, we're going to do this. And that means the world to me. Because, one thing I'm finding, people, when they actually get a chance to talk to me and ask me questions, when I go out and I do interviews and I meet with people, I'm not following what everyone else does, where they just get up there and they yap. I actually tell them a little bit about me, and then I give them the opportunity to ask me questions, because people don't know who I am. And whenever everyone that I actually get to sit down and have a conversation with, they're like, "You've got my vote." So that's the thing. When people like you invite me onto your show so that people can get a chance to know me and know what I represent. Thank you for doing that, because that right there, it gives people the opportunity to know who I am. One thing that I definitely do that no one else is doing is I publicize my phone numbers. You want to talk to me? I don't care who you are. As long as you're a citizen of Ohio, you call me, I will have a conversation with you. Because that's how it should be. One thing that we have lost, we have to remember that we are public servants. We are not, above the citizens of Ohio. They're untouchable, they're unapproachable, that's not how I'm going to run my office. If you need me, I am going to be there.
Now, just before we run out of time here, you say that the RNC, the Republican group, has shut you out of media, or you've been shut out of media. What media is shutting you out? Colleen Marshall had you on. The Dispatch is obviously covering you in the poll. Those are two big outlets in Ohio. What media has shut you down?
Well, the Dispatch has yet to interview me. I've tried to get an interview with them. Up until Colleen, once Colleen broke the ice, everybody then wanted to interview me. But she took the first step. She took the first step in saying, okay, I am going to treat all the candidates fairly. And that's what she did. And, there's still news media all throughout the state of Ohio that I haven't heard back from. There's been the larger ones that you can pull up on my YouTube channel. But there's still a lot of them that are refusing to interview me.
And you think that's because of the RNC?
Yes, I think it's definitely because of the RNC influence, yes.
And is there any way to break that in the next year and a half?
Yes, there is. I'm literally, any event that I'm invited to, like with yourself, anyone that wants to sit down and talk to me, I'm going to sit down and talk to you.
And we wanted to have you on for a long time, because I think it is important that people hear from every candidate.
That's right.
I mean, that's what this is all about. They got to know what you're running, what you're doing, what your plan is, or how else do they know which way they want to vote?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. My final question is to you while you're here. To you, what is the biggest obstacle you will have to overcome to become governor?
The RNC.
Number one.
The RNC.
Well, I'll tell you, that's tough when your own party is the one that you have to overcome.
Yes, it is.
But no real plan at this point on how to do that.
No.
So it's just there.
Yeah, I'm just, maybe they'll watch this. RNC, hey.
You want to talk.
I want to talk. I'm not scary. I'm not going to hurt you. I mean, whatever.
At this point, you just want to have a conversation with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to be treated like you treat everyone else.
Do you think the police getting called maybe has caused a problem with them? They called the police on you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think maybe that's a problem for them?
You find out and let me know.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll hear back.
Well,
Who
no,
knows?
but there was the problem before they called the police. The problem was that they said, "Oh, I don't effing have to work with you. You leave." And I said, "No, I'm not going to leave because I have a right to be here. I'm running for governor. I'm a Republican, and I have a right to be here just like everyone else." So.
And this was who? You don't remember who this was at the Republican Party?
Yeah.
We'll have to fit, but it's on your page.
Yeah.
So people can find it. But it's interesting. I mean, I think it, like I said, go back and listen to those Mary Taylor interviews. I believe the Dispatch covered the interview I did in which she said she would not endorse DeWine because she felt that the party was backing him and leaving her out of things and not, treating her fairly. Mm-hmm. So, it's interesting that this still is a problem 8 years later.
Wow.
And continues on, and that's where we are, I guess, in this particular state. Have you ever met with Governor DeWine?
Oh, yes.
And what's your take on him when you meet? Is he nice and cordial and everything's fine?
Yes, he's nice and he's cordial, but he's not helpful.
What have you asked him to do?
Well, for one thing, I asked him to help me communicate with the RNC before it blew up. When I was just calling, and I couldn't get any response. I was like sending him messages and, "Governor DeWine, will you help me? Because I need help bridging this gap. And I don't want to get involved. I don't, so."
That was his response. I don't want to get involved.
I'm not getting involved. That's, I can't do this. I can't do that.
So after the blow up, does he talk to you now?
We had a meeting for the first time. It's been a couple weeks ago at his home. That was the first time that he has actually met with me. And he appointed me to the MLK Commission, which actually he didn't appoint me, but he did appoint me. But I had never actually got to have a conversation with Governor DeWine until just here recently.
And how did that go?
He's very nice. He's a very nice person, but he's not helpful.
What did he, I assume you brought up your treatment by the
Yes,
RNC
I
at this, and he said what at that point?
I can't remember what all he said, but I can tell you he wasn't helpful.
Wasn't it? So the governor is not going to be helpful. The RNC is not helpful. Who can be helpful in the party?
The voters. The voters are who's going to make the difference. And the only way we're going to stop this cycle is the voters stand up and they say, "We're not going to put up with this. We're not going to support the Good Old Boys Club because it's not going to end until they do something about it."
For people who say, and we got, I think, 2 minutes left here. For people who say this state has been run, at the end of Governor DeWine's term, this state will have been run by Republicans for 16 years. Governor Kasich had 2 terms, Governor DeWine had 2 terms, and that any economic problem in Ohio has been caused by the Republican Party. There hasn't been a Democrat be governor. Every state office is held by Republicans in this state right now. Every state office, single one. So any economic issue in this state, any problem in this state, the legislature's majority Republican, highly majority Republican. Who's to blame for these problems that we have?
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said before. We are dealing with out-of-touch billionaires and career politicians. If you have a politician that's only worried about every 4 years making sure that they have a job, the people of Ohio is not in their best interest. And that is where that's where we're going wrong. We don't need to change our party. We don't need to change the foundation of the Republican Party and what we stand for. We need to change the people that we are electing into the Republican Party. When you have someone like myself who has the people's best interests at heart, who lives every day, who goes through the everyday struggles of regular Ohioans, then that is where the change is going to come about. But if we keep electing the same good old boys, this is what's going to happen.
Final question, a direct question here on a direct issue. A lot of people in Ohio right now are worried about immigration. We had, they're eating the cats and dogs in Springfield during the election. That was an immigration issue. We have immigration issues right now with visas being pulled for students at the Ohio State University. How would you, as governor, handle what's going on at Ohio State with the visas and immigration?
Well, let me tell you one thing. If you're over here to get an education and you're coming over here causing trouble, you need to leave.
If you're not causing trouble, if you're just a student on a visa.
That's not what's happening. They're not just kicking people out just because. It's people that are coming over here causing problems, that are protesting and making it to where, students, right? The students that are on the campuses are uncomfortable because they're just causing turmoil. Those people need to leave our country.
So are you saying that every student at Ohio State that's had a visa pulled has caused a problem?
To my understanding, yes, that is what I'm saying.
I don't think they would agree.
Well, I mean, there's some issue that they pulled the visa. I don't know if it's just causing of trouble, but there's some kind of rules and regulations that those students are not following that's making them pull their visas right now.
So if you're on a visa, you're not causing any trouble, your visa should stay, you should go to Ohio State.
Why wouldn't it stay?
I think that's what a lot of newspapers and media are asking right now. Because there was a big story on the front page of the Dispatch.
We're not the governor. The president is not trying to pull all the visas on every student. It's just students that are out here making it to where the focus is not education. We were gracious enough to invite you into our country or accept you into our country so you can get an education, not to come over here and stir shit. If you're going to do that, then you need to go back home because we're not going to deal with it.
Is that physical or just protesting for what you believe in?
Well, no, it isn't. It isn't just protesting. They're not here to lead a protest. They're here to get an education, and that is important. When you have regular students at Ohio State that are trying to get an education and can't because of all the turmoil that is happening on campus because of certain students, they need to leave.
So in the case, immigration being our final topic here,